Step inside the hidden corners of Paris' Marais district and uncover a timeless tale of love, loss, and mystery woven through the delicate ticking of an extraordinary pocket watch. Join the journey of an old watchmaker whose skill unlocks visions from the past, visions that reveal a poignant romance etched forever in the shadows of time. Ready to be transported across decades and emotions? Listen closely and let the story of the clockmaker of Rue de Tombs sweep you away. In the winding, cobbled lanes of the Marais district, time seems to fold upon itself. Ancient walls lean in close, whispering secrets in the language of faded plaster and weathered brick. The air hangs thick with the scent of earth stirred by centuries, mingled with the faint tang of freshly baked bread wafting from nearby boulangeries, and the quiet murmur of lives lived quietly, unknowingly tethered to this place. Among these aged streets, where many shops have long shuttered and surrendered to time's indifferent embrace, there stands a small watchmaker's workshop, barely noticeable unless one's eye is trained for such delicate details. Its facade is narrow, framed by peeling paint and a sign still painted by hand, declaring horloger in letters almost worn away. Inside, the old wooden floorboard creaks underfoot, worn smooth by long decades of careworn steps. Sunlight filters through dusty glass panes, scattering soft beams that catch motes of dust like tiny stars caught in stagnant air. The shelves are lined with clocks of every shape and sound. Grand, laborious grandfather clocks, marked by solemn pendulums swinging in stately rhythm. Delicate mantel clocks, elaborately gilded and intricate as lace. Pocket watches nestled in velvet-lined trays, their polished faces reflecting a flicker of history. Cuckoo clocks, frozen in eternal anticipation of the hour. And small marine chronometers, crafted with care for those who dared navigate treacherous seas. The proprietor is an old man, tall enough but curved with the gentle stoop of time, his back often bowed as if carrying the weight of every minute he has ever counted. His hair is a cloud of white, thin and wispy, combed deliberately to the side. His eyes, sharp and clear despite their age, observe with both affection and precision every gear and spring he touches. His skin, pale and creased, tells the story of many winters and long solitary nights spent bent over his bench. His fingers, though gnarled, move with the deftness of an artist, steady, exact, imbued with the reverence of a master honing a lifelong craft. Each morning, much like the clocks that surround him, the watchmaker follows a ritual. He opens the faded blue door with iron knocker, breathes in the comforting smell of old leather, brass, and fragile paper, and lights the single lamp above his workbench. Here lie tools amassed over countless years, tweezers fine as needles, screwdrivers of various sizes, oils perfumed with the faintest hint of wood smoke, magnifying glasses that transform small cogs into sprawling worlds. He is known to quite few. The neighborhood's older residents remember him from decades past, when the Marais was less tourist throng and more a mosaic of artisans and shopkeepers, each preserving traditions handed down like precious artifacts. Time itself feels slower here, measured not in the restless buzz of city life outside, but in the soft ticking that fills the air and the patient cadence of his work. One cool spring morning, as the dew clung to windowsill leaves and the promise of rain lingered in the thick air, a stranger entered the shop. The chime of the door was soft, almost diffident, a sound that seemed more like a sigh than an announcement. The man was draped in heavy, dark clothing that concealed much of his form. A low-brimmed felt hat cast his face, tall and slender, though slightly gaunt, in shadow. The watchmaker felt an immediate shift. The shop's familiar comfort was tinged with an unfamiliar electricity, a subtle tremor beneath the quiet. From within a lined leather pouch, a man produced a single object and placed it gently on the worn oak countertop. A pocket watch, remarkable in its delicate design and subtle grandeur. The outer casing was bright silver, but unlike the plain or ornately engraved designs the watchmaker usually encountered, this piece bore a filigree of tiny twisting vines that curled over each other, like the roots of an ancient tree. Tiny runes, almost imperceptible, were etched along the edges. Symbols archaic and beautiful. The glass face shimmered with a curious prismatic glow, as if a miniature prism refracted light trapped within. Carefully, the watchmaker lifted the watch, feeling a warmth emanating from the metal that was as unexpected as it was soothing. A gentle pulse that stirred the air like a sleeping heartbeat. His skilled hands explored the watch's surface, noticing how the hands were perfectly balanced, poised eternally at precisely 3:15. There was an unnerving stillness to the timepiece, a frozen moment carved out of eternity. The customer offered nothing more than a nod and a brief glance before departing silently into the pale morning mist that cloaked the street. The watchmaker was left with the strange treasure, a puzzle placed deliberately in his care. For hours he examined the watch, carefully prying its back open with instruments worn smooth by years of fellowship. Inside, the mechanism surpassed anything his experience could have prepared him for. The smallest cogs spun with impossible complexity, some parts fashioned from metals he had never seen. Jewels glimmered not with the cold sheen of mere decoration, but with the faint glow of something otherworldly. The balance wheel vibrated steadily, yet it did not tick in the way conventional watches did. Instead, it seemed to pulse softly, in time to an invisible rhythm only perceptible to those patient enough to listen. As the watchmaker adjusted a tiny spring, something extraordinary happened. A rush of movement blurred his vision, the air around him shimmering like heat over asphalt in midsummer. The familiar workshop walls melted away, replaced by misty contours of light and shadow. The very air thrummed with a faint, persistent melody, delicate and haunting. He found himself transported not through distance, but through time. The same workshop stood bathed in golden late afternoon light, the wooden floors gleaming with fresh polish. The shelves gleamed with newly placed clocks, untouched by dust or age. And there, by the large front window where the sun painted warm rectangles on the floor, stood a young woman. She was beautiful in her simple grace, dark eyes bright with quiet strength, chestnut hair tied back loosely, tendrils escaping to soften her face. Her fingers moved lightly and confidently over a small watch on the workbench, restoring a delicate mechanism with patient determination. The watchmaker recognized in her something he could not yet name, a name whispered softly by the watch's hidden chant, Elise. As he observed, the door opened and a young man entered, filled with a nervous energy that filled the room like sunlight bursting through cloudy skies. His clothes were worn but well kept. His eyes carried the hopeful glow of a poet or dreamer. His name was Henry. Though no words reached the present ear, their connection was unmistakable. The silent intimacy of their meeting, the brush of the fingertips, the shared glance that lingered too long, told a story of deep affection, tender but fragile. It was a love born in stolen afternoons and whispered promises, whispered beneath ticking clocks. Breathtaking, yet threatened by forces beyond their control. The watch's magic deepened, surrounding the watchmaker in symphonies of faded voices and soft footsteps. He watched Henry press the very pocket watch, the same one now resting in his own hands, into Elisa's palm. His eyes shone with fervent hope and desperate certainty. a silent pledge toward a future they both feared might not come. The vision darkened then, revealing the cruel urgency of a world on the cusp of upheaval. News permeated the air like smoke from distant fires, a continent teetering toward the edge of war. Henry was called away, swept into a maelstrom of duty and danger, his absence tearing at Elise's heart and fracturing their fragile world. Days stretched endlessly, marked only by the ticking of clocks and the slow fading of hope. Elise was left alone in the quiet workshop, the watch clasped tightly, its ticking both a comfort and a torment. She waited through long nights and chill dawns, hoping for a letter, a greeting, a single sign that he was still alive, still bound to her by the invisible threads of love. But Henry never returned. Years later, the watchmaker saw her standing by the same window, her face etched with lines of sorrow and resilience. The laughter and light had given way to quiet melancholy. Then suddenly she vanished, her fate a mystery whispered only in the silence that followed. The workshop became a mausoleum of memory, a space haunted by love and loss. Each time the watchmaker repaired the watch or adjusted its delicate springs, he became more deeply entwined in their story. The visions grew richer and more detailed, conversations interrupted by the ticking of clocks, evenings filled with music and warmth, moments of happiness so precious because they were fleeting. He began to gather fragments of their lives like precious shards, a handkerchief embroidered with initials, a letter torn at the edges, a bloom pressed between pages, and every discovery deepened his sense of loss. Not only for Henri and Elise, but for the loves that life steals silently, leaving ghosts in our hearts. In those quiet hours, enveloped by the steady ticking that reverberated through the workshop, the watchmaker's own past rose to the surface of memory. He saw fragments of himself reflected in the lovers before him, a man who once loved deeply and painfully, whose own life had been touched by the abrupt fading of love's light. The watch was not just a vessel for others, memories but a mirror to his own loneliness and longing. He pondered often the nature of time itself, how it flows, ever forward, yet manages to fold back upon itself in unexpected ways, neither linear nor merciful. The watch was a marvel, not just of mechanics, but of metaphysical truth, a conduit, bridging the fractured segments of past and present. With every tick, it wove a thread through the tapestry of memory, drawing the watchmaker deeper into the lives that had once brightened these walls and then dimmed into silence. Sometimes, as twilight deepened and the city's clamor softened outside, he would cradle the watch gently, listening to the subtle pulse that seemed to sync with his own heartbeat, as if the watch carried within it the very breath of those lost years. The workshop, once a quiet refuge from loneliness, grew animated in these moments, filled with shadows that danced in time to a melody only he could perceive. He felt as though the shop was no longer merely a place of work and routine, but had become a sanctuary where the past lived on, where grief and love had not yet surrendered to oblivion. The watch revealed not only scenes of those heartbeats shared between Elise and Henri, but also unveiled intimacies of the broader world around them, the Paris of their time, vibrant yet fragile, cafes where artists debated and dreamed, narrow alleys echoing with footsteps and whispered secrets, gas lamps flickering under the warming hues of dusk, and the faint strains of accordion music, drifting softly from street corners. Within these stripes of memory, the watchmaker glimpsed the lives that wove the fabric of an era, soon to be forever altered. One such evening, as rain pattered lightly against the workshop window panes, he saw a scene unfolded he would never forget. Elise sat at her workbench, the the soft glow of an oil lamp casting delicate golden halos on her slender hands as she labored to repair a finely wrought watch, the delicate hands steadying despite her trembling. Outside the storm raged, but inside the storm was a tempest of sorrow and hope intermingled. The room seemed thick with unsaid words. The pages of unopened letters littered across the table like fragile boats adrift. Her fingers brushed the letter closest to her, worn at the edges and sealed with a fading wax emblem. In that moment, the watchmaker felt the walls themselves breathe deeply, as if holding their collective breath with her. The air trembled with the weight of waiting, a waiting that stretched beyond years and borders, binding two souls to a single fragile hope. The visions were not easily controlled. Sometimes they came unbidden, swirling through consciousness while the watchmaker toiled over other timepieces. At times the past bled into the present so fully he struggled to anchor himself, caught between centuries with the scent of Elise's hair lingering like jasmine in the air, and the heavy press of Henri's absence aching in fragile depths. One afternoon, exploring an old drawer beneath the workbench, he discovered a bundle of letters tied with a faded green ribbon. Yellowed with age but preserved tenderly. The script was delicate, flowing, a hand both practiced and emotional. The letters were from Henri, written in exile during the war, filled with poetic remnants of love and longing, reflections on the cruelty of a world tearing itself apart. Each word was like a fragile echo, frozen yet vibrant, revealing layers of a man both brave and broken, a heart reaching across time to grasp what could not be held. A watchmaker read them in solitude, the shop's silence punctuated only by the ticking that had become a constant companion. He felt Henri's voice reach through the decades to him, a bridge woven from hope and despair. In the deepest hours of night, he sometimes whispered replies, speaking into the darkness, as though the words might travel backward through invisible currents of time and space, touching the hearts that had long gone silent. With each new piece of discovery, the old watchmaker grew aware that the story was far richer than simple romance or heartbreak. It was a meditation on the fragility of human connection, the ways in which time can both bring clarity and shroud us in mystery. The characters revealed themselves as fully as forged steel. Elise's quiet resilience, Henri's youthful idealism, their mutual sacrifice and unspoken fears. He understood now that the watch was not just a vessel for their memories, but a call to witness, a charge passed down through generations, that love, even when severed, endures in the spaces between seconds, in the careful crafting of moments, and in the preservation of memory itself. As weeks melted into months, the watchmaker's own life began to mirror the rhythms of the tale. Visitors to the shop dwindled, and the city outside grew ever noisier and more untethered from its roots. Yet within these walls, time retained its sacredness, enfolding the watchmaker in a cocoon of reflection. He found comfort in the small things, the faint scent of oil and wood shavings, the smooth glide of a wrench, the steady rotation of a gear, each reminding him that while time could steal, it also gave. Eventually, he began repairing the remarkable pocket watch beyond simple maintenance. Adjusting the hands, oiling the springs, and gently coaxing the mechanism, he sought a way not only to preserve these visions, but perhaps to unfurl them fully, to restore a fragment of that vanished past. Late at night, by the dim light of a single lamp, he chronicled what he saw and felt, sketching the entwined vines etched upon silver, drawing the faces bathed in golden light, transcribing fragments of letters and pieces of whispered poetry from a time almost lost. Each morning, as dawn climbed steadily through the window panes, he would press the watch close to his palm and close his eyes, summoning again the echoes of Rue du Temple, the street where time itself seemed to wait with bated breath, watching lives play out in miniature. In these moments, the watchmaker found a kind of peace, an understanding that his own quiet existence was a subtle thread woven into the broader fabric of human longing and memory. The workshop was more than a room. It was a vessel of stories, love, and loss. He, a humble custodian of moments, understood that even as time marches relentlessly forward, what is cherished, what is truly loved, leaves an indelible mark upon eternity. And so the days passed, each measured precisely by the rhythm of clocks, by the pulse hidden inside the mysterious silver watch, and by the unyielding hope that even in loss, love remains, forever turning in the silent dance of the gears and hands. The old watchmaker, tending to the fragile heartbeat of Rue de Tom, kept their story alive, whispering it to the shadows, to the ticking, to the ever-patient walls of the little shop that time could neither erase nor forget. Thank you for joining this journey through time and memory. If the tender story of love and loss in the clockmaker of Rue de Tom touched your heart, please like and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear how it resonated with you. Don't forget to subscribe for more tales that bring history and emotion vividly to life. Your support keeps these stories ticking forward. Until next time, may your moments be cherished and your memories never fade.